it's funny. I did see a meme the other day where it's like, it has the mic, but it has someone like directly under their nose. It's like that one gamer. You're just like, bro. I think that there's the alternative is also the person who has the mic, who's just like their mic is just picking up everything in the room, so you can hear the music they're playing in the background. You're just like, turn
someone
off the
else
music.
on another TV.
Yeah, someone else on another TV, like making dinner. Like mute. That's why I don't play with randos for the most part.
Yep.
One of the many reasons.
Speaking of randos, it's time to talk about Star Wars with a bunch of randos. Hello, Ken.
I mean, I don't know if do we qualify as randos? How does
We're not Mandos, so we got to be randos.
Oh.
If you ain't the best, you're one of the rest.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And we're not Landos, so
We're not
there's that.
Landos. We can't be Landos. We can't be Mandos. We got to be randos.
Can't argue with that logic.
Welcome back,
Yeah.
Kit. Hi, buddy.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Hello there.
I'm glad to squeeze you. We're able to squeeze into that busy baby's schedule.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, you've been gone a little while. How's your Star Wars been going?
Oh, my Star Wars has been going great.
You've been loving it, right?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like this was like the season made for Kit.
Yeah. The
It's
last. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's Star Wars, so he just got slashed like once across the chest. He could have crawled out of there and made himself a new torso out of garbage.
Probably.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody gets a new torso now. You've got Fennec now has a new torso. Darth Maul has a new torso.
Nice.
Yeah. Kit Fisto's coming back, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's the weird
No.
thing about like the rumor mill out there. They're like, oh, Mace Windu's alive. He's gonna be the one who trains him. He's the one who saved.
You never
Grogu.
saw him die.
Right, but I mean, like, there's far more realistic. Like Cal Kestis, I buy more than I buy Mace Windu.
I'm all in on Cal Kestis. And I'll tell you
No one's
why.
ever really gone.
Because of The Believer, the most recent episode, spoiler warning. We got to get through this one before we talk about some new stuff that came out. That episode, you guys, opens on a scrapyard. What else opened on a scrapyard?
Ooh, I know this one.
Cal Kestis'
Jedi Fallen Order.
There you go. It's
I actually just played that because it's they put it onto Game Pass.
Oh, did
and
you?
So
Oh,
I
yeah.
played. Yeah,
That's
I
right.
played like almost exactly that part recently. So.
Oh,
and that was actually
the tutorial. That's what you
right.
played.
Yeah, I got basically to the same point that I got to. It's just a year old, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The game?
I think it's
Yeah.
about
Like a year ago,
and a
I got it.
half. Before last Christmas.
I think I got it. I got it for last Christmas.
Yeah.
On PS for like an hour or two.
Yeah.
And then decided that it was not really for me.
I think you
And
should
so
play it
I
on easy.
played other stuff. Oh no, that's what I on on almost anything I play it on easy or
Padawan?
like cinema mode. Yeah, whatever the easiest.
Yeah.
I mean, usually my sweet spot is between the easiest setting or the second easiest setting. A lot of times the like cinema mode or whatever is too easy for me, and so I bump it up to the. I mean, it's like legitimately like impossible to fail, and it's just way too easy. So I do bump it up like one, but I never go up to like the hard stuff. I don't need to invest that kind of time. First of all, I'm not very good, and secondly,
Sadist?
I don't need to like spend hours perfecting my parrying timing on
I think,
Assassin's Creed or whatever.
Well, that's the thing I think Fallen Order convinced me of is that I'm probably not the market for Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Where, okay, I told people, like, especially JJ on the main pod about Fallen Order, and he's like, so it's Dark Souls light. And I'm like, oh, okay then. I'm not going to be into that.
Yeah, not at all. Like there's that game. Everything I hear about it's like, oh no, you want me to die. That's part of it's inherent to the gameplay is that you are going to die.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's too punishing for me. Like I'm not here for that. I understand that there are those who are down for that, and that's what their jam is. But no, I'm at least with games of that nature, give me cinema type.
Yeah.
Like I'm playing Gears
exactly.
Tactics, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh okay, Gears Tactics. I'm playing it on I think standard, but I'm like I'm enjoying it because I'm not like constantly like, oh I can't I've died 13 times on this boss. I just gotta get better. I'm like, I don't have that type of time and frustration level anymore, like, especially during COVID. Are you kidding me? Like, no, let's just play the game. Like, I'm
I,
looking for a release, not
yeah. I don't
not a
think a game
challenge.
has to be nice to you, and I think that game, Dark Souls specifically, and other games where you die on a boss multiple times because you need to learn the pattern and all that, it's just, it goes back to like the beginning of gaming where you like, okay, well, this is the Nintendo pattern. I got to learn what 3 things he does in a row, and then I got to get good at not doing the wrong things when he does the 3 things, and that's fine. I won't harsh anybody's groove for being into being punished that way. Just I need the middle road there where I think Fallen Order on normal and then doing it in the wrong order. If you play this game again, Kit, do not go to Dathomir first. Just don't do it.
Unless you want a double-bladed lightsaber. And then
Don't
just
go to
run around-
Dathomir first. I sat there on Dathomir thinking this is the hardest game I've ever played in my life. Finished as much as I could and then went to the other planet and was like, well, I'm now over leveled and just killing everyone. So
There's something to be said about that too. And I'm not trying to yuck someone's yum. I'm just saying like that is not for me.
oh yeah.
And
I think
I
think though that like there's a personal criticism to have there, but not a game criticism, right? Like for you personally versus it's a bad game. It's not those aren't bad games. They're good games.
No.
They're just maybe not in our wheelhouse on carbon scoring, where we're going to talk about The Believer, not Fallen Order anymore. Although we could talk about Fallen Order if you want to.
I would say don't don't speak too soon.
I know.
We,
There's a chance. There's always a chance. I don't think we see a Jedi by the end of this season, given where that episode left off.
oh, you don't think we see the Jedi who may have quote unquote heard the call?
I don't think so. I mean, unless that next episode's going to be very, very long. Unless it's going to be an hour. And in an hour, we got to break into a Imperial capital ship and have a huge battle. And, like it can't, I don't know. There's going to be a Darksaber issue there.
There's nothing that says that it can't be a 90-minute long.
No, you're absolutely
episode.
right. Yeah, you're right.
Which, by the way, reminds me, I vehemently disagree with you, Andy, that they should standardize the length of these episodes. I think that's the wrong thing to do. I am a fan of having the episode be as long as it needs to be and not stuffing some episodes with filler and artificially truncating other episodes because you got a 55-minute episode, but you got to fit it into a 45-minute time slot.
I have a rebuttal that doesn't prove you wrong.
Okay.
Okay. I think they should be closer to standardized than they are. And I run into that issue with the previous episode where Boba and Fennec save Mando while on the planet and he gets abducted by the Dark Troopers. I don't remember the name of that one. The Tragedy, where we lose the Razor Crest, which I called it. I'm going to keep saying that until the end of the season.
I think if you're gonna keep calling it, you got to give us an episode and a timestamp. I called it episode this.
I said this season. I said it would blow up this season. I think that.
Ken meant the episode of Carbon Scoring.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. It's all good.
My argument is that episode needed more time. At the end of it was completely rushed. That battle sequence made no sense. It was only there to see the Razor Crest explode and Boba put on his suit, and the rest of it was kind of nonsensical garbage in terms of how people were organized, what the battle was happening. He didn't pick up his jetpack at any point in there and then just has it magically the next episode. Something got truncated there that needed to be slower and more thought out and plotted out. And if they had added 3 minutes more to that episode, we would have had a better outcome storytelling wise. I think it was still a fun episode to watch, and a lot of it was visually very pleasing. But that's an episode where I felt like, well, we got to get to A to B, and this is how we're gonna do it, and we just filmed it like that, and now it's done. And so there's a lot of time that could be spent having more, like the first episode with Tatooine, where there was establishing shots. There's large visions of the desert. I felt more in a premium show than I did during the Tragedy, when I felt like I was in almost a fan film with the amount of time they used. It just gives it a different feel.
But so after what you just said, I feel like that actually reinforces or supports what I was saying. That
I said
you
my
were saying.
rebuttal does not negate your point.
Okay. Okay.
My rebuttal is only that some episodes, I think I'm taking your feedback on what I said earlier on standardizing them and saying I think you're more right than I was, but that some of these get too short and too truncated, and that they should shoot more for the 40 to 45 minute mark than the 37-minute mark, where sometimes, yeah, I guess they didn't technically have to add 3 more minutes of stuff to get to the point of this, but maybe they should have, to make sure that everything was plotted out and say, hey, what happened to his back? You know, like, did they cut it out? Did they not explain it? Did they not have to? I don't understand what happens there in a shortened episode. So I revised my theory based on feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, because they just needed like a moment to explain, oh, once he's stepped away, the troopers gain the ground to cut, like he can't get to his backpack because it's there, which is just a couple of shots.
If we had gotten a large aerial view of what that combat arena looks like, and like I can't get back to my jetpack because it's cut off from me, another line or two to explain why I'm standing in front of Fennec to taking all the shots, right? Instead of me explaining it to Kitty like, oh, he's standing there because he's got Beskar arm on and she doesn't have any cover, but you can't tell she doesn't have any cover based on where the troopers are. It's just kind of a little messy. That's all.
I'm curious too.
Light criticism, not heavy.
Yeah.
Spend a lot of time on it. Criticism.
Yeah. I'm curious too when all this was filmed, because I mean, as with anything right now, I'm definitely curious as to when this is filmed and how it's filmed. When we know we're in the volume, we have a scale that would be, depending on if it's during COVID, then it's like, okay, well, it is enclosed, but it's also a very wide open space. Essentially, you're in a giant warehouse. And then, but a lot of these look like it was shot outside, but then you don't want too many people on set regardless. So it's like, how is this? I'm curious, but I mean, it's one of the things we'll never really know until we get to the gallery where they're like, oh yeah, this is where we shot this.
You think they're going to do another gallery?
I think so. I think they definitely want to get as much as they can out of the properties they can.
I think this illustrates my point perfectly. The Believer is 38 minutes. The Tragedy is 33 minutes. The Believer is a good episode of The Mandalorian, and it's not 45 minutes. So clearly, my original point is not entirely correct. But 33 minutes is too short. They needed more time.
And oddly enough, I thought the Believer felt shorter, and I think Ebony did too. We were like, wow, that felt like it was over really quick. Like the Believer, we felt like it was shorter than the Tragedy. And we're like, oh, well, we're over. Oh, okay. But like looking back at it, a fair amount happens. And a lot of people talk about, oh, this was another filler episode. It's like,
what?
Yeah, people. I mean, this is, again,
it's
people.
Call them out. Specific people.
Internet people. I don't have internet people's names.
Those internet people. They're the same ones complaining about Leiku. Hey, what's your opinion on Leiku since you weren't on the last podcast there,
Oh,
kid?
yeah.
I'm pro Leiku. I don't really, but I don't really
Sorry,
care
I laughed too hard.
about the length of the Leiku. I did hear on a different pod that I listened to that there was a rumor that they had to do, and I don't know if this was confirmed or not, but that there was a rumor that the reason why her in the Mandalorian show why her Leiku were not longer is because if they were longer, they would get in the way of the sword fighting and the stunts.
That makes a lot of sense.
And so, yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean, I like the actual, like if the length of her Leiku in Clone Wars to Rebels to Mandalorian change slightly, I don't care at all. Like it
I honestly
doesn't
wouldn't.
make any.
I wouldn't have thought about
it
at all.
Good, I don't really care. Yeah.
Yeah, it's to a certain degree, it's a fair amount of shortening, but it doesn't matter. Like it really doesn't. Like of all the things that people are concerned about, I don't know why. Like I think it'd easily be 6 inches, if not longer, that they've changed, but just the practicality of it is just, I don't see where their issue is. Also, like there are people who were upset about, oh well, why does we're seeing a female Mandalorian here? Why does she have feminized Mandalorian armor? It's like, it's not like a metal bikini. Like it's armor. Like I don't know why
it's form-fitted armor. I don't understand.
Right. And so that's why it's a little bit odd that, I mean, you're in the world of the internet, you're going to find people who are upset about almost anything. And whether it's legitimate or not, there's going to be someone out there. And I think that's, to me, that's not a legitimate argument. I asked my wife, she was like, no, like that seems fine. It's form fitting, like Andy said.
Yeah.
Like it makes sense that she has, it's not a metal bikini. It's not the fantasy armor issue that you have of like, why is her midriff bare? Like, no, it goes down to cover it. It protects. And like, that's the purpose of it. Functional for those listening at home.
Yeah. I mean, it's more functional than Cara Dune's armor. It's just like a choker of metal.
Yeah.
Shoulder pads.
I don't know if that's, I mean, that's more.
It's a uniform. It's not even armor.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Bill Burr.
Space Boston.
Space Boston. He said he's sold a good character to me. I was fine with Miggs the first time we got to see him and never expected to see him again. And then we get Miggs Mayfeld back.
Mayfeld.
Yeah. To lead an episode, basically.
I was not expecting he would have been the last person on that episode that I would have expected them to bring back.
Yeah, I know, right? He it's cool.
Although it
I'm
made
cool.
sense to me when I had time to think about it at the end of the episode, what the episode was about. It made sense to me, but like before I watched the episode, I would have never suspected that they would have brought him. If you would have said like, we're going to bring somebody back from the Prison Break episode, which person do you think it would be? He would have been my last pick.
You
I would have thought that they
Clancy
would have brought
Brown?
anybody else.
Clancy
yeah,
Brown.
any of the other characters would have made more sense to me, but but I can see now why they
Yeah,
picked
for the
him.
purposes, as soon as when he said, "Oh, I'm going for him," I'm like, "Oh, it's because he's an Imperial." Like it's a story reason, as opposed to like if they were going someplace else, I can definitely see them bringing in. I don't know her name, but I keep thinking of her as Tonks because she played Tonks in the Harry Potter movies, but she's the
Sion or Shion,
yeah.
I was very happy they brought him though, because in an episode where you've got to distract people from the fact that you've got starting to be a pretty amazing cast with Pedro and Ming-Na and Tamura Morrison as recurring characters every episode. You've got to have somebody that can come in and star in an episode. Bill Burr did a really good job, I think. Bringing
when
in
he's at the table speaking about Operation Cinder, which is a great one. It's a great way for them to tie in superfluous, like outside knowledge. If you're watching more than just the TV shows and the movies, like that's a cool dive to pull.
What was that from?
That's from the Battlefield. I'm sorry, the recent Battlefront game.
Oh.
And also some of the comics.
But so the Battlefront 2 is, or I guess it's just Battlefront.
Yeah, Battlefront 2 is a single player mission, and that's where they kind of that's where they introduce a little bit of Operation Cinder, which is essentially just scorched earth policy. They're trying to, like, the Emperor's a pissy little bitch, and he's just like, oh no, we're gonna just raise certain areas to the ground, even Imperial held cities that we control and that are loyal still. This is to teach everyone a lesson. And Emperor's just like, burn it all. Oh, another good one is, I want to say Shattered. I'll grab the name in a minute, but there's another one that
Shattered Empire.
Shattered Empire. Thank you.
They had Operation
also
Cinder
in
there.
Yeah, those are two. The comic book Operations and Shattered Empire, and the video game would be.
This is
two
kind
good
of where
points
we started this podcast, and I'm glad it's where we're going again, where I'm like, so what's this from? Because I don't get it.
Yeah, they really grab from a lot of different sources, both the old, the legends, what's now legends, and the current canon. They really do. They grab both Easter eggs and just kind of working stuff into bringing stuff back up. Like, I wouldn't particularly call Operation Cinder like an Easter egg type thing, but like being working things from the canon, bringing them back up, integrating different parts of the canon into the universe.
So this was another episode, and it makes sense that Bill Burr came back when you realize it was directed by Rick I don't remember how to say his last name. Famuyiwa. So he directed the prison episode before. So he brings back Bill Burr, and that you were just about to say when he's talking at the table. I did a Boston on him, tacking at the table.
Tacking. Pretty smart, wicked smart.
And I think this is their relationship. It's got to be their relationship. When he wrote this, Rick Famuyiwa wrote this, and Bill Burr delivered it perfectly. You could just see the very slow creep of rage building up in Bill Burr as he talks about it. And you think initially he's like talking about it so he can get them out of there. And then before the Din knows that what's going to happen here is not what they think. They're not going to come out of this without him shooting that guy.
Yeah. And Bill Burr does a great job of almost like maybe a little bit of PTSD or something in there. Like his expression is cold, but there's so much like hidden like emotion there, and it's really good because you're like, he's dealing with some shit right here. Like this is like he saw some shit. It's not just the like, oh yeah, I'm just doing random shit over here kind of like his previous character, or I shouldn't say previous character, but previous performance.
Yeah, well, and you start with his previous performance, right? And since we are in this train, he gets brought in, and they get in that crawler. I don't remember what they called it, but that type of crawler thing with all the fuel in it. And before the battle, the Fury Road starts. It was good. I want to edit that to the Fury Road music and see what happens. I bet you it's almost exactly timed perfectly for it. Because if I were editing that scene, that's what I would edit it to. You put some temp music in and get it going real good. He starts as that other character, and then they pass that village, and the wheels starts turning a little bit. You can see him remembering, his time as an Imperial, and he talks about how it doesn't really matter who you are. You just get run over by whoever's in charge in the galaxy, right? So it's good. Yeah. It's good. I don't think another character speaking, forget the acting part of it where it was like really good acting, but I don't think another character gives you those moments trying to get into the base or steal anything or do whatever. So that was a good choice to bring it back full circle. And I don't know if he directed another. I don't think he's directed another episode since the prison.
Yeah, he did. I want to say he did 2 in the first season, but yeah, I have to double check.
He did The Child, he did The Prisoner, and then he came back for this one called The Believer, right? Gotcha. And he wrote it too. So, way to go, Rick. Mr. Famuyiwa. I'll get it right. I promise. I'm trying for real.
Gotcha. Yeah, and so it's like this. That's I don't. And of course, there's always the discussion because most of these the titles are kind of open ended. Like, who is the believer? Is the believer the imperial officer who's just like, oh yeah, we did it for the good of us because what's the Empire and we believe in the Empire? Is the believer Din where he has? I really like the gradual in this episode change where he's like, okay, well, how do we get in? I have to go in because we don't trust you. No one else can go in because everyone has one or another reason to be spotted by the Imperial on a number of things, including Boba. He's like, let's just say they recognize me. Let's just say.
That was a good line. Yeah.
So it's like they all have the reasons, and he's like, okay, I'll go in. He's like, okay, so he's like, he's like, okay, so I'll find my caveat. Okay, I'll go in, but I'll still have my head covered because I'll be wearing an Imperial helmet. That's what's going to make, like, I can make peace with that. That's how I'll get through. No one will see my face. And then as time goes on, he's like, shit, okay. He has to draw that line in the sand. Like, I have to walk past it. I have to expose my face so the machine can get me. Although, why would it recognize him? It's just like, okay, you're not a bad guy. Is that all that it scans for? It's like, oh, you're not a...
That's what I didn't understand, and why I don't understand. There's a little bit of a hiccup here where I don't understand why Bill Burr's character, Miggs, he doesn't want to take the risk of going in there and doing the thing unnoticed because he knows how it works. But then is willing to take... He
doesn't want to get seen by...
But he's willing to take the risk once Din screws it up and gets spotted, and then he sticks his face right in that officer's face instead of walking around and sort of hoping he doesn't get noticed. I guess...
Yeah, I think if anything, because of what we learned later on, he's not thinking to a certain degree. He's emotionally reacting to seeing this officer who essentially has killed others of his platoon and his brothers in arms. Like this guy is one of the reasons why he's no longer an Imperial officer.
Right.
And this is why he's stepped away. So at that time when he sees him, he's just like, nope, not going in there. Can't do it. And then he starts to see Din, get deeper and deeper. It's like, okay, shit. He just reacts. It's emotionally, he's not able to go in there. And then he just, again, emotionally reacts. He's not thinking 100% clearly. And that's to the character's strength in the way they play it, is that he's just like,
Okay.
I just gotta get out there and help him.
Is that the vibe you got there, Kit? Because I was a little bit, not confused, I guess, but a little bit like lost in the woods on the character motivations there, and I just wanted to piece through it. And I like that explanation, but
yeah, I think that works for me. I think that it does seem to me like at the beginning he just doesn't want to go in there. Like clearly the officer doesn't remember him, but it definitely, because of the way that the actor plays it, it seems like it's more that the character isn't so concerned that he's going to get recognized, as he just doesn't want to have to deal with these emotions and having to interact potentially with
I see.
his old commanding officer. Although I will say, like, to go back to earlier, the face recognition thing, obviously.
Yeah.
You can have two kinds of systems. One that scans your face and says, yes, this person is on the list. They can use this computer. But that's clearly not what we have here, because Din's able to use it. So clearly they just have a system where they're like, here's a list of people who are not allowed. So if you're on this list, we're not going to let you use your computer. But if you're not on one of these criminal lists, anything goes.
Yeah,
Anybody else
fine.
can just walk in here and use these computers.
I'm trying to think if there's a value in other than saying, well, it's less work this way. If we only have to put in like 5 people a day instead of the 500 stormtroopers we added today, maybe that's less work.
No, I
Maybe
feel like that's actually kind of
constantly
believable. Yeah. It's a bureaucracy. I can see that. Them doing that.
Yeah, whichever one was the least work, maybe is how that system came to be.
Well, it's the thing too, is because this is like, they talk about a little bit in the beginning too, like that these are remnant bases. These are not, in the heart of the Empire. These are all just the people who stuck around because it was, for whatever reason, they stuck around with the Empire. And so are they just like, well, if somebody joins up, we'll just, if we have an issue, then we'll add them to the system. But then they're constantly adding new people.
Yeah.
So maybe they're like, well, as long as you're not Princess Leia, Han Solo, or
Cara Dune.
Boba Fett, Dune, as long as you're not these people, you're fine.
Well, so I loved that line with Boba Fett because it's a two-parter, right? Some people that don't know will just be like, oh, well, they would recognize Boba Fett. And then other people are like, oh, no, they'll know because he's a clone.
He's the clone. Yeah.
Yeah. And they'd be like, what's a clone doing here?
Yeah.
Well, that'd be an interesting thing too, because it's like there
should be almost no clones left at this point.
Looking at Legends or EU, which, by the way, I coined a phrase with a couple of friends. We're talking about, oh, that's EU. Like, oh, well, what about the new stuff? Oh, that's DU. It's Disney Universe, so that's DU. But yeah, looking at what we have currently, we don't know the life expectancy on like how many clones stuck around, how many clones died, XYZ.
Yeah, they weren't allowed to retire really, so shouldn't be many left.
And that's actually not true, because we do know that there's at least 3 that did retire, and they took off with a Sandcrawler.
Retired.
Yeah, right.
You saw
exactly.
how Rex retired. That wasn't retirement. That was defection, right? So like, how many of them got to defect is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, again, and that's where the lines blur between Legends and DU, is like, you're now like, in Legends, there were some that just essentially, they were decommissioned, and they're like, okay, well, they're no longer of use to the Empire. Some of them became training officers. But yeah, it depends on where we are. Like,
it would be nice to have that explanation.
I mean,
because a lot of people on the casual side, again, I've talked about in previous episodes of this, how I have kind of 3 groups of people that I talk to after each episode. And the most casual group, multiple people in that group assumed that the explanation now for stormtroopers through episodes 4, 5, and 6 is that they were clones still, right? So it's like never super explained that no, after Attack of the Clones kind of in there, they're no longer making clones. Like you have to find that information in other sources, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of people I think still assume that maybe clones are being used by the Empire. It'd be interesting to find out or have that clarified by this show or another show. Haha.
I'm sure it's coming.
Hint, hint.
Yeah. I think for the most part, yeah. I mean, there's definitely, I guess, you know, Rangers of the Republic of the New Republic could definitely give us an answer on that if we ever when we get there. But we do know that I'm gonna say, because that's the thing too, is like if you look at just what we've essentially, you look and when thinking of the common casual, if they're just taking into account the movies, they don't remove their helmets, so you don't see anyone.
You would never know.
Past a certain point, you'd never know. Yeah, I mean that's a fair point. I mean, I guess it's something we'll have to cover. The hard part is trying to research it. All the YouTubers, including current ones, if you look up a video that's put out 2 months ago, in their title they'll put canon. I'm like, you keep referencing books from the
Not
expanded
canon.
universe.
Yeah.
Those don't count. Like you can, why are you citing unreliable sources? And just because it makes for a better YouTube video, which is really annoying to me, a ridiculous pedant. So
Penitent
man shall pass. Pedant man shall pass.
Hey, Indiana Jones reference. Good job.
Yeah.
We can reference all of them before we talk about them if we try hard.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I know that you were talking about earlier that the chase reminded you of Fury Road. When he got up on top of when he was fighting the guys up on top of the truck, that really reminded me a lot of Indiana Jones on
top of the tank.
On top of
Last
the tank.
Crusade.
Yeah, Last Crusade. It was less. He didn't have to fight the tank, right? So, it was more Fury Road for me, or like original Mad Max for me. With the whole.
Oh no, I'm not saying that you weren't that the Mad Max didn't make sense. I'm just saying when I watched it, I was thinking Indiana Jones.
I guess not original Mad Max. Road Warrior. Both road ones.
Yeah.
Fury Road and Road Warrior.
Road Warrior, not Mad Max and Beyond Thunderdome. Those don't have car chases, really. I mean, Thunderdome does kind of a little bit, but not really.
Yeah.
Mad Max has a really good car chase, but nothing with the giant tankers like the other two do.
Yeah.
There's another podcast I was listening to called Force Material, because it had Paul Sun Young Lee on it, who's the Captain Carson Teva from Kim's Convenience. But they were commenting out every episode this season has like an 80s movie reference.
Oh, there you
like
go.
in the Betrayal, they had the Indiana Jones boulder coming down the hill.
Yeah.
They had Mad Max, and like if you go back, there's ones in every, like it seems like it was kind of a sub theme, like they did with Phase 2. Everyone lost an arm in one of the parts of Phase 2 as a nod to Return of the Jedi. Phase 2's Marvel Universe, MCU.
Okay.
But yeah, like it's if you look, I mean, like you can go through all of it, like a bunch of people lose arms somewhere in each of those movies, and it's like, oh,
Okay.
like well, I mean, in Thor, I mean, you can go back, like Thor: The Dark World. There's a part where Loki.
Do we have to go back to Thor: The Dark World?
We can. It's not as bad as you remember. It's not. It's still the lowest on the totem pole, but still, it's. But yeah, Thor loses his arm there in a vision, and like that's there. So.
Huh.
I don't remember that from the Battle of Naboo.
Yeah.
Thor 2, the Battle of Naboo. Sorry, I just think that I've made that joke for way too long, but because
signature
Asgard looks
joke.
like Naboo. Yeah. Go back and look. It looks almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
Now I have homework.
I was really glad to see how Slave One works.
That was interesting, yeah, because I didn't know what to, because I mean the only time we've seen it in the interior is for the most we saw it was in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Yeah.
I still don't understand how that works. I have tried to figure out how that works. I know that they showed it to me. I still don't understand how that works. But
I saw stuff spinning around.
It was interesting to see the inside of it. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like you could build a ship better if you didn't have to gyroscope the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it makes for a cool look.
Yeah, the ship itself is cool from the outside. Interior wise, I'm just like, This just looks like a night. Like, what if someone gets? You would have motion sickness just from sitting in there talking to other people.
It looked like Din had motion sickness, by the way, when that thing took off at the end, and he was like, grabbing the chair.
Well, and I mean, it's a spaceship, so really only an atmosphere. Like,
It matters only in
Traditional-
atmosphere.
yeah,
That's fair,
traditionally,
too.
it never even occurred to me that they would need that, because I would always think that, like, you just have to make it out of out of orbit or whatever, at far enough into orbit or out of the stratosphere
To be
be
fair,
able
I
to
mean,
get out of the gravity.
he has it
then
one
it wouldn't
time where
matter.
it doesn't gyroscope and he's sitting back, and it actually makes more sense to me that you would climb into the cockpit and lay down like you would in a modern rocket in order for it to
Right.
lift off like that. Instead of people like sitting down in the ship and then the ship lifting up while you're sitting, you'd be pushed down into your seat, like crushed down as G-force pulls you back down towards the planet, right? But if you were Boba Fetting and you sat back like you were in a rocket, if Slave One just lifted off the ground before it spun upward, you would be fine. You'd be like a normal. So it actually makes some sense. And then they made it make my brain twist.
But it looked cool.
It sure did. I think it's like a Star Trek ship. Don't think about it. Just enjoy the visual.
And
It's a spaceship. It's not going to work anyway.
they brought back that seismic charge thing from Attack of the Clones as well.
Yeah.
They drop it out the back. And it's like, wow.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Oh man, there was a lot of fun little references in there to other types of troopers. They brought back what are they called? The mountain troopers.
The mountain troopers. It's well, I mean, that's the thing. I keep thinking of them as shore troopers because I was thinking of them.
Scarif troopers. Yeah.
Scarif troopers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but like, yeah, they reuse that. Like, okay, we can reuse that helmet, and they also do reuse it for mountain troopers and a few others too. But
Okay,
yeah,
so-
just different paint jobs.
Well, the drivers, they're the tank guys from Rogue One. The guys
Right,
who were
yeah.
like driving the tank. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool to see a lot of the remnant be like Rogue One reuse. It was a good tie through, I think, for a lot of people, especially because it's a movie, and so people that have seen the movies and only were watching the movies up until this premium show, and then said, I'll get into that because it looks like the movies. See something that they might remember from like not 4, 5, 6, right?
Yeah.
Which is a good idea, I think, in my opinion, to like drag a few of those things in there. That
Well,
they
we
might
had
or
the
might
Death
not
Troopers
remember.
earlier.
Yeah, Death Troopers. That's from the games, though, right? So.
Well, not the
No,
Dark
Rogue One.
Troopers, the Death Troopers.
Death
that showed up
Troopers.
first
Yeah,
in-
Death Troopers in season 1 at
in
the
Rogue
end
One,
of
yeah.
at the end of season 1. So it's cool to bring that stuff through. Do you think it's gonna matter that they introduced what was it, Rhydonium here? Is it
They didn't
Rhydonium?
Oh,
I'm actually not even sure why they didn't just use coaxium or some other.
Right,
highly
yes,
explosive
why
thing
not
that they've
use
already used in
coaxium?
the universe, but whatever. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but I did think about that as they were like, we're driving this highly unstable explosive thing, and I was like, but why would you give
Why
it a
not
new
use
name?
the stuff
Okay,
from
whatever.
Solo,
Yeah.
right? Like, why wouldn't
it's
you use
from
the same thing from Solo?
Rebels.
But okay, but in an instance where, okay, I mean, be happy about it. That's good. It's good that it's from Rebels.
No,
We
I get
enjoy
you,
that
though.
it got brought back. I'm wondering why they introduce it here versus, well, I guess because Filoni brings back something from Rebels. But you could, again, tie into another movie if you go back to Solo and you use coaxium.
I think maybe because my best guess would be to the scale to which the size of the thing that they're transporting. When they get by the end of it, when they're like, oh hey, here's the coaxium, it's just like, oh, here's a few small containers
Yeah.
versus giant trucks hauling in a bunch of them. Also, because we do like when we see, oh, one of the few places you can get coaxium is over in like through the Kessel Run. Like you have to go through all of that as opposed to
that's
being
true.
on one planet. Be like, oh well, is coaxium really that rare if you can just get it on this one planet? Why didn't we just come here last time? It's like, oh no, it's hard to find coaxium, so they had to go through all that whole rigmarole just to get there, as opposed to Rhydonium is more plentiful, but still just as volatile.
Okay.
So it's like okay, we can because we're talking about high volumes. There's at least 4 trucks that are going through there, and then they're all pretty loaded down with Rhydonium. So
Yeah. Made for a good scene anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
But
that's a good
that's-
point about the coaxium.
Yeah.
Just the
Makes more, and they're
availability.
obviously like mining it on that planet. So
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
did we want to try and answer who the believer is, or do we not care?
Well, I didn't even think about when Ken talked about that's a great point. When Ken talked about the officer, because that makes total sense. But I didn't even think about that. I was thinking of kind of on the one hand, you've got Mayfield, who is very much not at the beginning of the episode. He's very much like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have any part of this. But by the end of the episode, he seems far more on board. And I can see, besides the fact that he was an Imperial, I can see why for this episode, the believer, why they would get Mayfield, who is the last person that you would think from that crew that you would ever think would ever try to help Grogu and help Din get Grogu back. That by having Mayfield go through this, he kind of does become a believer by the end. But then there's also Din.
Yeah.
And like, he literally has to break his number one rule. And there's a great line that Mayfield says at the beginning about like, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he says something about like, there's a line, and everybody eventually everybody gets to that line, and you don't know what you're going to do until you get to that line, and what you have to do. And Din reaches that line, and he's like, do I want to let my orthodox beliefs where I can't take off this helmet and I can't let anybody see it? Because now he's at a point where if he's still going to follow that creed, he can't put his helmet back on because he took it off and people saw him. Human beings saw him with his helmet off. So now by those rules, he can't put his helmet back on. He could still, be with the other Mandalorians and still do that. But if he's still going to be a believer of the Orthodox Mandalorian creed of the what do they call him? The Watch.
Children of the Watch.
Yeah. If he's still going to follow that, if he's going to be a believer of that, then he can't put his helmet back on. And so we get kind of both of those sides. So I actually, even without even thinking about the Imperial officer, I thought that it was a great title for this episode because of those. And then but Ken brings up a very good point about this Imperial officer really does believe all, or at least is pretending to believe all of that stuff.
I don't land on him being as much of a believer as a cynicist. He's more of a cynicist in the like, this is the way that it is, right? And like, it's all for the cause, baby. Like, it doesn't, like he had that more like crass attitude about the universe than the true like brainwashed experience that you would expect if you were calling him a believer in the Imperial cause. I'd think you get less of a I'm gonna toast and drink over this kind of stuff and more of an upright officer, which he was no longer that kind of uprightness. I think I land on, I like that Mayfield doesn't have to be a quote unquote believer in the Rebel Alliance or a believer in the cause or anything like that, to just believe that it was okay to help someone, right? Like, that's more of a believer than he's ever been, it seems like. So I like that line too.
Little baby.
I like that line too that came right after that, where he said, "So is the rule that you can't take off your helmet, or the rule that you can't take off or you can't show your face? Because it's kind of a different rule, don't you think? Like, if you land on one or the other." And like, I laugh at that line, but I think it's very important to say, hey, have you ever thought about your beliefs? Because it's important to interpret them for yourself and understand what you think you're investing your personal morality in, right? And so, like, is the rule as strict as you think it is, or is the rule to try to follow the rule? And in whatever way you can do that, right?
Yeah. Right.
So I think that's where you get the real essence of what the believer's about.
Yeah, definitely. And that's and like I was saying before we got sidetracked, I like that he keeps having to push that line himself. He's like, okay, here I'll just switch helmets. Okay, here I'll take it off. I get, because he has to try and like make that decision. And he's had examples as well of other Mandalorians early in this series. He's met the Night Owls. He knows like, oh wait, these guys are actually like true born Mandalorians, and they take their helmets off, and that's okay. Like I don't like that's not my creed, but that's okay with them. And he made a certain amount of peace with that. Like he didn't like at first he's like, you guys are unbelievers, I'm out of here. But then by the end of the episode, he's like, no, good luck on your mission. I'm going on my mission. Good luck. He meets Boba Fett, who he meets without a helmet, and he's like, you can't have this. And then he finds like, oh no, you're you're the descendant of another foundling, and you've removed your helmet, and you accept this too. So these are all things that are giving him throughout the story reasons to be like, okay, wait, what do I, like you said, questioning what he believes in and what that devotion calls for.
Well, Kit nailed it when he called him orthodox, right? It's a question of, and it seems trite to compare a sci-fi TV show to people with orthodox religions in the real world. I understand that they're more personally held and important beliefs than a show, but science fiction, and the point of science fiction, is to challenge people to understand the world they're currently living in. And while that doesn't happen so often in Star Wars, it does happen because you have episodes and instances written by different people who want to talk about different things. And so if you go back to what Kit was saying, he's an Orthodox child raised in an Orthodox family, whatever type of family he was raised in. And he hasn't experienced challenges to his Orthodox view from people with his own quote unquote religion, right? And so being able to tackle those personal feelings in himself and with input from people that are also Mandalorian, he's able to say, what do I truly believe in? I can't take off my helmet and therefore we have to storm this base. Or I truly believe in the value of my mission, which is to protect Grogu because I was given a mission, and therefore reinterpreting the I don't know what you want to call it, but the biblical hell, like the exact wording of what the armorer says I have to do versus the interpretation of that so I can still accomplish my moral goal is
are you
fun.
Yeah. Are you sticking true to like the spirit of the word, or are you just being dogmatic and just like, no, this
dogma,
is
that's a good word.
Yeah.
Dogma. Yeah.
Are you sticking to that versus just like, no, I mean, we're already drawing comparisons to religion, but some people might say like, oh, the Christian thing is this is the party, this is a Republican party, and we're Christian, and this is what we believe. It's like, no, but the spirit of the Bible, when you get down to it, is to be kind to others and do good works.
I don't think you have to bring politics into it, even to say, even amongst multiple religious groups, right? You have Christianity is split amongst, I think you said last episode, 40 something. No, you said 14. I can quote 14 other Christian groups. And so we started talking about that last episode, and they really brought it home here. And I think we're gotten as deep as we can get, but like, do you believe the way, take the blood of Christ or whatever, right? Like, in Catholicism, you truly believe that when you take communion, you are taking the physical, real manifestation of Jesus Christ in communion, right? But you get down to Episcopalians and other Protestant religions, and it's kind of like, well, it's an interpretation of the original, right? We are reenacting, and because of our belief of reenactment, et cetera, et cetera. So you can march down the line from the most orthodox, and Catholicism not being the most orthodox, but a more orthodox interpretation of dogma, all the way to, Sunday church, community church, where it's about like the spirit of it. Let's talk about the 5 different things in the spirit of this religion. And that's just to take an example of Christianity that I know more about than others, right? I don't.
Well, and to go back, Grogu is now part of his clan. They are a clan of 2.
Yeah.
And he has to do this to save Grogu. and so he has to choose, like, do I want to wear my helmet and follow this rule, or do I want to protect my clan and go save Grogu?
Yeah. You
So-
have no choice beyond taking your helmet off for this scanner. I really love
Right.
that he tried to scan his helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it. He's
He
like,
tried.
maybe it'll work. It's fine.
Come on,
let's try it out.
It's Imperial issue,
Hey,
which, by the way, I think should.
I wouldn't
better.
trust Mayfield.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Fair enough too.
And to be fair, you know, like in a more modernizing interpretation of saying, well, we have to. Star Trek does this all the time, where like, oh, well, that was the technology when they made that originally in the 70s, so we need to up it because we already have that technology. And Star Wars does a great job of being like, nah, it's still the same broken stuff you saw in the 70s. So there's no like, you know, they don't have any NFC chips in the uniforms where you could just scan your hand
exactly
or whatever,
what I was
right?
thinking. Like, oh no, it'd pick up on the RFID reader.
Yeah, right. There's,
Oh, no, this is-
but no.
that's me, old-
We see the exact same microphone that was in Star Wars 4 inside the little truck that they're driving. You know what I mean? They don't. That's great. It's great that they don't do and Star Trek is cool because they try to reinterpret technologies to push the idea of what is possible forward and all that sort of thing. But it's cool that there's another option here where we say, no, it's the same stuff. It's fine. Yeah. Okay, cool. I think this is a top 3 episode for me.
Wait. We cannot stop until we talk about the talk.
The
The
talk?
message.
yeah. Before we get there,
The best part of the episode.
I don't
I know what
think
he's
so.
talking about. I want to get there. A couple different things. I love that they bring back the fact they want to point out Mayfeld's a sharpshooter. So it's like, give me that Tuscan rifle over there, and let me sharpshoot these tanks from here, because that's what I am. I'm an Imperial sharpshooter. The thing one you learned about me is this. Bam, nails it, blows up the base.
Interesting
days
that
had.
he seems to have a knack for getting sharpshooters on his side, right? Like,
Yeah.
anyway.
Which also, now that we're talking about this, I didn't even think about this until then, but the PTSD kind of reminds me of what was the Bradley Cooper movie? Is it American Sniper?
Yeah.
Which is a very good movie. But that kind of Mayfield's. I mean, obviously, they're shot from different. Mayfield being a Imperial who has lots of regrets, as opposed to the point of the character is totally different. But I feel like they did kind of have very similar, because there's a lot of stuff about him, about Bradley Cooper's character having regrets and second thoughts and things like that throughout that movie, and having trouble having to reconcile those sorts of things. So
I think
another...
that one of those reasons to watch that movie, if people haven't, is because you get to see. A lot of people think, oh, well, if somebody has PTSD, they're not functional. You can tell they have PTSD, and like that movie, it's easier to consume for a lot of people. A movie, and that movie proves like you can have PTSD and be completely functional, like, and no one would ever know. But you need to see it to understand it, and that's Bill Burr's character handles his emotions differently and behaves differently, but still has that same. He's wound up on the inside, and you'll never know unless something triggers. You know, then that moment comes across the same, and that's a good reference for people. Good call on that one. All right, I don't think I agree with you about this, so you should talk about it.
Did Ken have something else before we get to the end?
No, do the end.
No, I was saying the only other thing that I kind of thought was funny was that they have when they had, because you mentioned snipers too. Fennec Shand. I get her sniping all those dudes, but Cara Dune's a storm. She's a shock trooper with a giant assault rifle. She's not like picking guys off. Like no, that's like essentially like a Gatling gun that she normally wields, and now she's got this. But it's all good. That's just a random thought because I've been playing a lot of a tactics game lately. And so it's like I have my snipers, I have my scouts, I have my vanguard.
You know, considering that Cara Dune didn't really even need to be there, you could have just had Fennec doing all that. Like just to ignore what you think.
It's
it was her contribution to that scene.
Yeah, no worries. Like I said,
They should have given her a rocket launcher. That would have been the thing
Or
to do.
machine gun.
Or a machine gun. Yeah. Just let it lay down cover fire.
Yeah.
All right. He's Giancarlo's shaking in his boots.
I loved that scene because and you know what? JJ on the main pod is going to love that scene because that is a very, very Western thing of like, it makes no sense for me to give you warning, but because I'm the good guy and I'm going to tell you, not only am I going to do this, I'm going to give you warning and I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to do. Here's exactly what I'm going to do. And I love the way that he spun it around using Moff Gideon's words exactly to let him know that he's coming. Right. Yeah. Like and that was such a cool Western moment where he's like, and I'm coming for you. I just want you to know I'm coming.
I don't dislike it. I don't dislike it. I just thought, you'd really want to have the element of surprise if you were these people. That's all I thought.
You would, but that's not in Tombstone.
Yes.
When he shoots everybody at the train station and he lets Ike go and he's like, you tell him I'm coming and Hell's coming with me. Like that's a very, very Western thing to do. Like there's no reason why he should let Ike go there, except that he's like, you go tell your boss I'm a marshal now and I'm coming for you.
Yeah. You're right. I didn't feel it at the time, but I like it more now that you have vouched for it.
Yeah, once you give some subtext, which I'm the same way with Andy. I'm like, unless you're on the ship, don't tell him. Yeah. Like, why would you do that? But then, like later on, other people kind of gave it that subtext because that's even something I didn't catch right away. That like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing there. The fact that it is a Western type thing to do. I'm like, okay, I get it now, and I'm more on board. But initially, I was just like, no, don't do it like.
Oh yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but it's a very like Western John Wayne thing to do. Yeah, like I'm the good guy, I'm coming.
Yeah,
just so you know,
sits with the theme. That's good.
Yeah,
it's good. Okay, yeah. I mean, I espoused the noon shoot standoff in with Michael Biehn, so I have to say then that this was probably also good, right? If we're trying to hit operational themes, we have to stick to it. So
yeah, and that was a great since I wasn't on that recording. That was a great scene too, having the very wuxia fight going on in the water garden,
having two westerns
and having the western good guy bad guy high noon shootout just on the other side of the door was so cool.
Getting to see like the two styles of interpretation of the 70s western, right, or the 50s through 70s,
when Ahsoka and
doesn't matter, she's dead.
I can't remember what her name is, but
maybe
something Morgan Elsbeth are just like watching each other, and they're like, all right, well, we're gonna fight, so we're gonna do the very cool thing of like taking off our robes and our outer clothing because this is gonna get serious. I love that. That was so cool.
Yeah, well sold for that moment for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else about Mando before we just transition here to not Mando?
I didn't know that the next episode was 60 minutes. That's pretty awesome.
Is it?
Because you're the one who said it.
No?
I don't know how long it's going to be.
He said he thought it would be 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Is it?
Gotcha.
But to go back to the very beginning of our own pod, I will say I think if we do get if we find out who the Jedi is going to be, it'll just be at the very, very end of the episode.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I would say I thought something maybe along the same lines, but I also have idea because I think I talked about it in the last pod that we did about like the last scene is like Thrawn turning around, but then because Andy said, "Oh, no one would really know who he is," but I'm like, but I would love it, and that's as far as I thought. Like, no, but I'm happy with it. So
I think I think we're proven correct that Thrawn will not be showing up in the Mandalorian at this point,
given other announcements.
Some announcements that came this past week. I don't see a length for Chapter 16 So
Okay, I thought somebody said 60 minutes, and I'm like, that's a
would-
long episode, and I'm down.
I would be down
I'm
with
down
60,
in-
they would need 60 minutes if they're gonna do more than him getting Grogu back, right? Like, given the rough estimate of how they do this show, you would need
Well, he's gotta-
37
Got to get
minutes.
together the 7. He's got
Yeah,
to get together
well.
the 7.
It also could be a cliffhanger. I mean, it's not.
Unlikely.
I wouldn't put it past them.
I wouldn't put it past them either. They're already in production, so
Yeah.
I just don't see it. I think
Yeah.
you're more right that it's a cliffhanger of there is a Jedi coming, but we're not going to tell people who it is, so there's no I feel left out moment, right?
I'm like cliffhangers of expectation as opposed to like actual like, oh, we're like, will they survive?
Yeah,
Like,
no. Mm-mm.
Just more so like, oh, they just drop seeds for the next season.
Yeah. Like the end
What
of
I'm saying is that it would if so. Last season, the last 2 episodes were really kind of like one episode with like the cliffhanger break in the middle, so that you like what's going to happen next week.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if that same structure was used this season, except that the last episode of the season was the first of those 2 episodes, and we're given like the next, like what's going to happen, and well, you're going to have to tune in next fall.
Okay, so that's
It would
where
not.
you're,
It would not surprise
I'm
me.
laying my
yeah.
chips. I'm laying my chips a different place, which is resolve. Oh man, there's just so much to resolve though. Like explaining everything about why he needs Grogu. Maybe he doesn't get him back because like there's really no explanation of what a dark trooper is. There's no explanation of. I guess maybe you don't need an explanation of what a dark trooper is, but really like summoning that doctor again and saying, hey, go get that doctor because we got Grogu back, and then not explaining what these hybrids are that they're working on, how it connects to Thrawn, if it connects to Thrawn. There's a lot open-ended there that if he were to just get the baby back, plus he's got the Darksaber still. So are we going to go get Katie Sackhoff and like resolve all that in one episode? That seems like quite a lot. I don't know.
I don't know about resolve. I guess so. To put that my chips down in a certain way, I don't think we're gonna have a 2-parter kind of scenario. I think it's
so.
gonna be more. We're gonna answer a good majority of questions, but then still leave oh, but that just leaves more answers. Like how did he get the Darksaber? Because I pull back to season 1, and they're like, oh hey, yeah, they survived, but then so did Gideon. So you have that, like, it's seeds to plant next time, and he's got the Darksaber. How did that come about? That's the type of ending I expect, is like some kind of like tune in next time for new adventures with this stuff, as opposed to a Back to the Future Part 2, or sorry, Back to the Future 2, to be concluded, ? And then like cutting it in half that way. I don't see that. I see more just because I just see them mirroring more of the previous season of being like, we'll wrap it up for the most part and then have a little bit on the tail end.
They'll have a lot
as
more
far
open
as-
threads than the end of last season, but I think I land on roughly where you're at.
And then also a lot of those threads can then just be picked up in the Ahsoka show, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Now.
I mean, I didn't know if there's anything else anybody had to say about like I don't think we need to explain Dark Troopers as far as when you said the hybrids. I think that's just, I don't think we're going to, I hope we're not going to get a lot of that, because I feel that that's just kind of like, that's just there to explain, oh, by the way, there were things always in the works to bring back the Emperor, and this is one of those stopgaps.
Oh, okay.
Because like, I mean, I rewatched a bit of the Rise of Skywalker, where he's like, oh, Snoke was just me. I've always been in your head, as like, that's always been me. So Snoke is just a puppet, just like everyone else for Palpatine. So
Okay. So they're just trying to
That's-
help Palpatine.
yeah, they're just trying to find another, because I think Snoke was just a genetically engineered thing
Palpatine,
for
yeah.
Palpatine to puppeteer. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what when you see it in the tank, it looks like half Snoke, half
Palpatine,
mutate
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Droid Story, Rogue Squadron, Lando, Visions, Rangers of the Republic, Bad Batch, Acolyte, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Andor, Ahsoka. I would like to point out that almost fully half of these are named after a person, and the other ones are not.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting strategy to make Star Wars shows based specifically on people.
Do we want to talk at all about any of the other Lucasfilm centric stuff like Willow, Indiana Jones?
I mean, they're exciting, but there's not much to know. Kit and I were
We're not
looking
on
this
that.
up earlier.
Yeah, I think we should stick to just the Star Wars stuff. I mean, we
Yeah.
can mention that they're making a Willow TV show. Like, I don't know, probably 10 episodes of a Willow sequel, I assume. They're making Indiana Jones
5.
5.
Yeah.
And they're making a book that I don't know. I don't know anything about this book, but it's based on a book called Children of Blood and Bone.
This is
So-
all
Yeah.
Lucasfilm parts of Disney Plus, right? All
Yeah.
this is Disney Plus.
I don't think it's all.
Indiana
Like,
Jones is probably
Indiana Jones is a
theaters.
theatrical movie, right?
Yeah. Probably.
I don't think it's all like exclusive to Disney, or it might be. I don't know. Maybe they're going to do that or like the Mulan
some of these are 3 years
thing
away. They could
type
wait.
thing. Yeah,
know?
but I don't think that this is necessarily all Disney Plus exclusive stuff.
Yeah.
Like I think Rogue Squadron. They specifically said theaters in Rogue Squadron.
I would watch
think.
that in a theater.
So, yeah.
Give me. Okay. What do we want to start with? Andor, we already know a lot about. It's Cassian Andor previous to Rogue One.
Yeah. So it sounds like a spy
Spy
type
show.
I don't know. I was actually kind of surprised that they didn't have more than just the concept art at this
I would've
point. 'Cause
thought,
that's
right?
that show's been around or they announced it a year or two ago.
Along with Obi-Wan
I don't
Kenobi.
know. Yeah. So
Those were the
I was a little
first
bit
2
surprised that
announced.
we
I
didn't
think
get-
even before The Mandalorian.
yeah.
They said they were going to do these things. Maybe schedules have not worked out or something like that.
Yeah. Maybe.
But it's cool. If I get to see Cassian Andor find and reprogram K2SO, it will all have been worth it.
Well, I'm at least when they announced it before, they said that
Alan Tudyk.
Alan Tudyk's coming back as
Yep.
K2SO, so we're gonna get more K2SO.
Yeah.
So thank you for helping me out with that.
No worries. It's always
And then,
Alan
I don't know,
Tudyk.
I mean,
if
like-
it's a voice, just assume it's Alan Tudyk.
Yeah. And then for Kenobi, they announced that Hayden Christensen will be
That was the big
reprising his
announcement for
role
me.
yeah,
I was like,
his role as Darth Vader. I assume that it'll be like flashback, internal memory type stuff, and that they won't actually. It doesn't make any sense for them to bring Hayden Christensen and back and put him into the suit. So I assume it'll be the actual
Yeah.
actor outside of the suit, but I don't know.
they could use him for a lot of the face stuff for when he takes his helmet off, since he would still be younger
Yeah.
during the younger years of Kenobi. It makes sense now that all those rumors about him doing lightsaber training, people who thought he was going to end up in one of the movies recently. And then we were like, well, we've seen him doing lightsaber training, so what is he doing? So now that this explains that, I think.
Yeah.
The sorry, my wife had took me away for a moment. Are we kind of just gonna jump around between just giving out thoughts, or are we gonna try and take it like boom and go through them in order? Or
I
what's
just
the
keep
plan?
going through them in order. So we did Andor for a minute, and
I was just trying to start out with the stuff that we already
yeah,
knew
we
about.
already know about. So it was
first,
Andor
yeah.
and Kenobi were the ones we knew anything about.
Okay.
And
Yeah. Well, so then jumping back on the Kenobi thing, because Andor, I'm on board. I don't know
Yeah,
if you guys
sure.
watched the sizzle reel.
Mhm.
It's pretty much like just give it to me. I'm ready. Like just
yeah,
give me
most of
more.
the sizzle reel was Rogue One footage. So to me, I was just kind of like, well, just show me
Yeah.
just show me the show. I'm already in. I like those characters to begin with. Like
Yeah.
Rogue One it would be my number one Star Wars movie. If you didn't have to take into account that Star Wars needs to exist to have Rogue One. So,
Yeah.
it's just so good. Like it's such I don't know what happened to fix it because of all the problems they said they had, but like they created new characters that were interesting in the Star Wars universe, which is always kind of a shot in the dark on what you're able to create and make people interested in, and taking a non-white, non-female actor and like putting that relationship in jeopardy with things around him like a droid and morality and all this other stuff is a lot to hit people with in a side Star Wars story, and they sold it instantly, and I'll watch a show of that easily.
Yeah. I'm curious too, like who do we bring in as some of our like I'm because of course we're gonna have additional people. Like we're gonna get a little bit of Mon Mothma. Is he high enough clearance to ever have a Mon Mothma scene?
Yeah, I
Just
mean
because-
he does. It seems like she knows who he is in Rogue One.
Yeah, and
Because
so
she
it's like, there's
calls
stuff
him,
like
she's
that.
like Captain Andor, like, come
Yeah.
on, like, I know who you are. So easily that, whatever that general's name was, the X-Wing commander in that movie, I'm sure they bring back for this because he seemed like he was somewhat in charge of special ops or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Although it seems like by Rogue One, Andor is basically in charge of special ops.
Yeah. There's a
There's a lot of people you could drag in there. You could recast Wedge, I guess, because by then he would be in the Alliance. You could create a Taiko Chelu character.
well, that's more for the Rogue Squadron though, wouldn't it?
He fights he deserts after the Death Star, I think. So yes, you'd have to bring him in for Rogue Squadron, not for this.
Yeah.
I
One
think he
quick thought
defects
about
after the Death Star.
yeah, but I mean that's in Legends.
That's Legends. Yeah, you could just recreate him however you want.
For now.
Yeah.
3 years from now.
My Google search history knows when I type TYC, I want Taiko Chelu. I've Googled him enough for this show.
That's fair. Andy, you're more of a gamer. Am I wrong with the Andor logo? That looks like the Quake like sigil thing, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I don't know what you call it.
They definitely skinnied out the Phoenix for that. That does look like the Quake logo quite a bit. Oh, the Quake one goes a little askew. It's not straight down.
Right. Yeah. It's just one of those things where I'm like they looked like, and Ebony was talking about this of how like from a certain point of view, like they kind of they look a little bit rushed. Like let's just throw together some stuff, especially when you look at the Star Wars Visions one. Like some of them are just kind of quickly like, well, we got to get something up there to put on the big board, so let's do it.
Well, I think that she's right about the Acolyte and Visions for sure.
Yeah.
I think the other ones are thematic. Like Lando looks good. Droid story looks good. Rogue
that
Squadron
ties back to the original. Yeah.
Rogue Squadron looks great.
Yeah.
Ahsoka. Okay, so Rangers of the Republic is rushed too for sure. Okay, so we also knew previously about Bad Batch.
Ooh, can we pause real quick? I want to jump back because we talked about Kenobi and I want to go on to that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry.
So with Hayden, because I didn't watch the live stream. Some people reiterated what they heard, and like, oh yeah, it's supposed to be the rematch of the century, and I'm like, wait, so we're gonna have Kenobi like face off against Anakin? Like, is that the intention there, or I mean, but is this in a fever dream while he's on Tatooine? I don't see him leaving Tatooine ever to go fight Anakin, Vader. So it's like it has to be like I'm expecting more flashbacks than I am like, oh yeah, like it's him taking on Darth Vader. Like no, I don't. And that's the thing too. They say like, oh, he's reprising his role as Darth Vader. That's rather specific verbiage. It's not he's reprising his role as Anakin Skywalker. I'm very curious about that and how that's going to play out. Personally, I'm a good with the version, which I thought about this when we mentioned Indiana Jones. I don't think the Adventures of Young Indiana Jones are on Disney Plus, and I kind of want them to be right now because I want to watch those.
Yeah.
But like that's what I was hoping for with Kenobi is him writing in his chronicles of like, oh, I want to see how he met Duchess Satine. I want to know what happened there because we've had half of Clone Wars to kind of learn about that and be like, okay, so he strayed from the path too. What happened there for him, and why didn't he stray from the path? What put him in that orbit? And also, I'm on board for young Anakin adventure, like him training Anakin. I'm also on board for adventures of him and Qui-Gon Jinn. Like, just give me young Obi-Wan doing shit. I'm on board for days. Like, just him writing down stories of like, and then there's this time me and Quinlan Voss were on a training mission and we did awesome shit. Like, yeah.
I don't think you'll get that, if I'm honest.
Yeah, that's fair, but it's still
Maybe one of Filoni's next projects.
Yeah. It's interesting how much younger Ewan McGregor looks than Alec Guinness, and the amount of time between the end of the prequels, so the third movie and the fourth movie, is not a lot of time to turn
Tatooine has
into
2
19
sons.
years.
What's
Tatooine
that?
has 2 sons.
Oh, so he bleached his hair?
So Luke's born at the very end of Revenge of the Sith,
Right.
and it's 19 years from Revenge of the Sith to Luke and because Luke and Leia are 19,
Yeah.
and I guess Ezra. So it's 19 years to A New Hope. From Revenge of the Sith to A New Hope.
You'd think they'd have tried to make him look a little older, or we're gonna see why he looks so old by the end of it. You know what I mean? Like what?
2 sons.
That's
Well,
20
this could just be
years.
set like midway. This could be set midway. He doesn't. It's true. He's not. He doesn't look as old as Alec Guinness did in A New Hope.
I think Ken, you gotta assume he left that planet, and that towards the end of that time he had to stick around and make sure that Luke was safe. But he probably left Tatooine in 20 years.
Did he? I mean, his entire mission, even when we see him in Rebels, his entire mission is to protect Luke Skywalker. That's his sole purpose for existing at this point, is to make sure that no harm comes to him. Not train him, because that's not what Owen wants, because that would be a horrible idea, just to train him, morons. But that he's there to protect him. So it's like, I see that's his sole thing, and apparently standing out in 2 sons, being bleached by it, not being protected by the nice Beskar Mandalorian helmet that Bo-Katan has. That thing's got AC. It's like she's got UV protection in there. She's living that nice life with that armor.
That armor must have lotion in it or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's got an atmosphere in there, so it keeps her. Yeah, you know,
high moisture content.
He's living in the desert on a planet with 2 suns. I expect that's why he's so gray. He's just like, ugh, I'm just tired and I stink. This is not fun.
Riding banthas everywhere will do your back in, I think.
Yeah.
Bad Batch. We already knew everything about this, right?
We knew some. We didn't know that apparently Fennec Shand showed up in the Bad Batch. That's some awesome stuff right there. Yeah. That to me is like, that's a fun little like, oh shit, okay, so hypothetically, more opportunities for her to meet Boba Fett, to be like, oh hey, later on if I'm ever shot in the desert, please try and
turn me into a robot. Yeah.
Yeah. A cyborg. She's still human in parts, maybe.
Okay.
And this certainly,
it would be cool to see and use other bounty hunters in this point in time, right?
Yeah.
Do we think this is what were you gonna say, Kit? Because I was wondering if this looks like it's gonna take place after Order 66.
It certainly looks like it takes place after Order 66 to me, which was what I was gonna say. Is that we're gonna get a little bit of what we were talking about earlier, that you wanted to know what happened to the clones. It looks like at least these guys are still in the employ of the Empire after.
Yeah. At least for now, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they try and hunt down Rex.
Possibly.
I mean, one other thing too that I should have mentioned earlier is we do know that from other comics that some clone troopers, because of their ability to follow orders, but also their skill, they became the Purge troopers. Some of them.
That's true.
They were because they're so well trained.
Yep.
But we do know that this is going to take place after Order 66. We may see what happens to them during Order 66. Like, were they on a mission? Were they with a Jedi? We don't know any of that. They worked mostly without them, but we do know that they could have been on a mission. Also, I was watching a video of people saying like, oh, what do we want to see? Someone mentioned Quinlan Vos because he survived in so many iterations.
It's just because he looks like one of the Bad Batch characters. That's the only reason someone said that.
I'm okay with that. I'm still okay. Have we not? We should put it like that's a pin at the top of the thing. Ken is okay with more.
Ken would put Quinlan Vos in anything or everything.
Most things. I understand he doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. He doesn't need. He won't be in the Acolyte, but we'll talk about that.
Okay, so let's move to the Acolyte, because I'm wondering if this is where our quote from last week comes back. Is this where Sam Witwer shows up?
I hope so.
Oh no. So the Acolyte is actually set during the towards the High Republic era. So
Okay.
for those that are they're just kind of getting into some Star Wars stuff, it's last San Diego Comic-Con, they announced that one of their big pushes in new media for Star Wars was going to be the High Republic era, which is essentially kind of like the Old Republic in style, in that it's kind of set, thousands of years before the Skywalker saga, and more of a enlightened era of Jedi and ideas of that nature. And instead of calling it just Old Republic, it's now the High Republic, and it's supposed to be this very pre-Republic era, like it's kind of thing. It's set far in the future, or sorry, in the past.
Okay.
So that's what the High Republic is, and Acolyte's supposed to be one of those stories. And we're about to get a bunch of novels and kids novels and things of that nature, comics and
Clearly,
stuff. Clearly,
it's something about a Sith, right?
That's the idea. Is the Acolyte supposedly going to be a Sith that the High Republic's trying to find? Because in this time period, the Sith are all but extinct.
Yeah,
to
Korriban
their
has been
belief.
destroyed, right? By then,
Yeah. And so I would believe so.
because
but then
Old
again-
Republic is Korriban is still a thing.
Right, but again, we can't really infer too much from Legends into this, just that it's kind of the time period in which it's set, so to speak.
Well, that game is still going, so that's got to be canon.
No.
The online game
The online game from
Yeah.
many years ago.
from BioWare from a decade ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still online.
Yeah.
It's still working.
But I haven't heard anything that proves to me that Sam Witwer can't be in the Acolyte.
I'm just saying, Star Killer needs a beta version.
We need to keep Starkiller for Mandalorian season 3 or Ahsoka Tano. Although I think I don't know, I'd be more good with Bad Batch era. I think he's a better fit there if we're going with kind of the Inquisitor angle. That's kind of where that would be built in.
Fair.
But that's just because I'm pulling too much. I'll be clear though too. I'm pulling from the previous iteration of him, of knowing that he's in this era, and also that Dave Filoni at one point wanted to bring him into Rebels. So part of the
He's
that
gonna get in
Inquisitor
here
era.
somewhere. Yeah,
I so hope so.
he will. Don't worry. We called it. We called it. Just like the Razor Crest, we got this.
Sam
Range-
Witwer, if you're listening to Carbon Scoring right now, know that we are campaigning for
Got
you
your
actively.
back. Rangers of the Republic. Does Dave
I'm on
Filoni
board.
have to act a lot more? Is that what we're saying?
I'm so hoping for more Captain Carson Teva. I need him so much more. Other than that, like I'm on board. It's very little known. It's kind of like, well, we have Rogue Squadron, and but I mean, I guess they're different time periods, so there's that.
It seems
'Cause one-
redundant.
I was thinking more like the Cara Dune, like not pilots, but more like on the ground.
I was thinking more
Troopers
that
was
like
what
the
I was
Cobb
thinking.
Cobb Vanth marshals of the world and what they're doing around the New Republic to try and keep.
Oh, I was
keep
thinking of
order.
like special forces type.
oh
stuff, but
like
I
Rangers.
mean, I don't
got
know.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Yeah.
I'm good with both, but the thing is, you're gonna have a character who's gonna kind of bridge between worlds. Let's just so Captain Carson Teva is the Agent Coulson of the New Republic. He's the Agent Coulson who's just gonna be like, I'm over here to help you. I'm over here to help you until I get my own show over here. Let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, they've given you the impression though that if this is in the same time period as the Mandalorian, that this thing's held together with shoestrings and bubblegum, and it's not really going well. So I wonder where this ends up set. What in terms of time.
I believe it's set. I think that then that's the reason where when I shared the image, the second one, it's set at the same time as Mando and Ahsoka. They're
Okay.
all timeline concurrent stories, to my knowledge. But yeah, I'm on board for all of that, like everything we talked about.
Star Wars Visions might be what you get when you were asking for Kenobi's visions of the past and
no.
the future. No, what is
No,
it?
Star Wars Visions is a look at Star Wars from an anime aspect. So Japanese animation studios are taking to producing Star Wars stories with a Eastern infusion, let's say. I guess that's the best way to put it. But that's what Star Wars Visions is, which is something I didn't find out till later on.
Oh,
I thought it was actually like the what if Star Wars because Star Wars, there was a Star Wars Visionaries book for a little bit, where it's essentially kind of like what if designs and kind of reinterpretations and like, oh, what could this be? But this one is supposed to be kind of anime, like like Toei Animation Studios doing their feel on Star Wars, which I'm on board. If it's like a kind of an anthology thing, like I think of stuff like the Animatrix, or
yeah.
there was a Batman one they did as well. I want to say Legends of the Dark Knight, but I don't think that was the name of it. But there was a Batman like direct to DVD thing that had like 3 or 4 anime-esque Batman stories. Shadow of the Bat? I don't know. There's so many Batman titles. But that's what Visions is supposed to be, is kind of a look at it through this lens, which I'm on board because like we've talked about it here. People have recut the Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures as an anime intro, and it looks friggin' phenomenal because I love those. So I'm on board.
Nice. The Mandalorian, what's that?
I'm sorry?
It's on the list. The Mandalorian?
That's season 3.
I just
Like,
go
I'm sorry.
through the list, man. It's on here.
All right. I was yes, The Mandalorian is the next one, season 3. I'm still on board. There's really nothing here that I'm not on board for. I should stop saying that.
I think some of these might not be proven winners out the gate, right? We're gonna have to sit with it. Like, I already know who's involved in Andor. We're good to go. But like Rangers of the Republic, I might need some convincing.
I mean, this
is a lot of media. I mean, like, people are not going to be able to keep up. Some people are going to have to pick.
This is years worth of stuff. This is not that much.
This is not
stuff. This is like 2 TV shows and a movie a year, or a movie every other year and like 2 TV shows a year. It's not.
Okay, so this is ranging out.
This is not 1 year's worth of stuff. This is like this is years worth of content.
What their plans are
announcing. Yeah.
Lando?
Yeah, like this is going into 2020. Yeah. Lando, they haven't said if it's going to have Billy D, if it's going to have Donald Glover. They haven't said what's up there, just that there's going to be a Lando series, which I like Lando, so I'm on board. I'm hopefully it's funny because I'm always pulling back to that Young Indiana Jones series, and I'm like, just have this person telling stories about this person's adventures. Go.
Yeah.
I hadn't even considered that they might go with Billy D. I just assumed that they would I just assumed that they were going to get Donald Glover and have him have adventures and whatnot.
I had that assumption as well. I think Billy D suffers from the same Han Solo, Harrison Ford treatment of, I don't know how much work they're going to be putting in on a daily basis to make a show.
Yeah, although it could be kind of cool if they got them both and they could have Billy D do the intros to the episodes and be like, I remember back,
Yeah, send him a script and have him read it.
Whatever it is, the mind harp of
That
Sharu or whatever. And
it's great.
Then you cut right to the action that has Donald Glover.
It's always Donald Glover midway through like some sort of escape because something's going horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And then the season finale is Harrison Ford going, that's not how that happened. You bring in Eldon Ehrenreich in an episode for him. He's like, so me and Chewie were there and we saw this. And then you get boom.
If Alden Ehrenreich is able to make it back into something as Han Solo, I would be very, very happy. I just feel like he did not get a fair shake at all. He did such a good job.
I thought he did a fine job. Yeah,
he did a good job. Not a fine job, a good job. I believed every second of it.
I enjoyed him more once Chewie showed up.
Okay, sure. But he doesn't have that great an origin story. It was just like, I was a street rat. And you're like, okay, moving on. Like we get it.
It's definitely due for a rewatch. I'll say that. I'll need to give it. I need not give it another chance, but I need to go back and refresh on it.
It's better than you think. I think.
Okay.
In my opinion, Droid Story it looks like it's about our favorite duo.
Yeah. So I'm forget where I heard this. It's supposed to be there's a new droid, but it's also they're being guided by the R2 and C3PO. Like it's going to be a new droid story. It's I think a kid show ish type thing, which I'm fine with.
Isn't that one
yeah.
of the some of the, at least two of these are movies, I thought.
Well, I think Rogue Squadron and
Maybe Visions?
oh no, I mean Visions would be a movie in that the Animatrix is a movie, but I
Yeah.
mean, do we count that? I don't know.
guess. I don't know, because they said two of these were movies. So I know it's Rogue Squadron. And I
Yeah.
don't remember what the other one was. But we'll talk about Rogue
Is Lando
Squadron.
a series or is Lando a movie?
Lando's a series,
Okay.
I believe. Rogue Squadron is Patty Jenkins directing a what she assumes to be a Top Gun-esque type movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I am so excited for that.
I'll watch that.
Yeah. It's on my phone calendar already. Christmas
That's
3
great.
years from now.
That's great. I hope.
Is it 2023?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, come on. You got to assume at this point people are just kind of like, why even bother going into production? Just wait.
Well, and the next when they after Rise of Skywalker, they said that the next Star Wars movie wasn't going to come out until 2022, and then because of COVID, everything got bumped back a year. And from their plan now is for, I guess, I don't know, Lucasfilm Phase 2, I guess. I don't know if that's what it's called or whatever, but the plan is now for a movie every other year. So like there'll be, instead of a movie at Christmas time every year, they're going to put out a movie in 2023 at Christmas time, and then a movie in 2025, and then a movie in 2027 for the foreseeable future, instead
good.
of trying to pump one out every year.
Okay.
And
That's
having
better to
having
me.
more of the content shift to Disney Plus.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm way on board for that.
Because then you got the people that are insatiable, satisfied by something they can do at home, even, you know?
Right.
And you can really pump money into, like, okay, 2 years from now, you're getting a movie called Rogue Squadron, and people are like, what? But then you get enough advertising out there, and they'll go see it. It's interesting to me, knowing that that's the movie that does not have a Star Wars story treatment. It just is Star Wars Rogue Squadron. It's not Rogue Squadron, a Star Wars story. God, that logo is good, though.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah, I do like that logo.
last things
now
last, Ahsoka.
Go ahead.
Looks to me like the thing from Rebels behind her name there. Anybody else catching
Yeah.
that?
Yep, it's I was trying to think. There was a name for it, I thought, in this show, but now I can't remember it. But yeah, it's like the Nexus or the Gateway. I don't know what to call it.
Welcome to Gate Crashers, a podcast.
Lord, I didn't
about-
even see that. I hope that that's not what that is. We're
That's-
talking about the time travel stuff.
It sure looks like the time travel
Man,
Matrix.
I hope that that's not what that is.
Well, I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be. I mean, it could also be taken. Yes, I mean, it is a reference to that, I think, because she was affected by that, but also it could be it also nod to the Jedi Fallen Order symbol where you touch down.
Oh, yeah, the
where you-
meditation circle. It
Yeah, the
does look
meditation
like the
circle.
Fallen Order meditation circle too.
Yeah, so I don't think we necessarily
Oh.
need to have adventures through time. I just think it's just a cool iconography that they can use right now.
Who's gonna play?
I don't
Cal
think it's gonna. Yeah.
I hope so, because like honestly, that was my least favorite part of Rebels, and I hope that they never speak of the time travel tubes ever again.
Well, they have to
'Cause I
speak of
think
the
that-
time travel tubes because otherwise Ahsoka wouldn't exist.
She wouldn't have survived.
Yeah,
You mean?
she would have been killed.
They don't. If we never bring up the time travel tubes ever again, they didn't have to explain the time travel tubes to get her into the Mandalorian. If you've watched Rebels, her and I'm doing air quotes here, death came in Rebels, and her rebirth came in Rebels. So if you didn't watch Rebels, all you know is that Ahsoka was in Clone Wars, and then she showed up in the Mandalorian. So
Hey.
you don't need to explain it.
Unfortunately for you,
We
buddy,
never need to talk about it again.
Unfortunately for you, they've already brought up Thrawn, and my dark horse candidate of Cal Kestis is currently losing to Ezra being the Jedi that shows up. So you're gonna need to watch
Well, right,
Rebels
but we don't-
probably.
Right, but no, and you can. But I'm just saying, if we never bring it up ever again after that one episode of Rebels, it's already there. But if we never bring it up again, that's fine with me, because I think that that's a Pandora's box that you don't want to open up. You don't want people going around retconning stuff, changing stuff in the past, traveling through time travel tubes. As soon as they did that episode, I'm like, oh, this is a bad idea if they're ever gonna come up with this again.
They also
this is not just
destroyed
a one-time thing to get out of the Ahsoka, and I'm doing air quotes here, death, because I never thought that she was dead, because she was clearly like walking downstairs at the end of that episode.
Exactly.
And so I didn't think that they even needed to do that. But
see, that
clearly
doesn't
somebody
track.
thought that they needed to.
That has always bothered me, because he pulls her into the thing. So who walked down the stairs?
She did, because he dropped. So essentially, it just stops that fight, because otherwise Vader's never gonna. If he's facing Ahsoka, he's not gonna stop and give up until she's dead.
Oh, so then he just drops her back there after Vader's gone?
That's what I figured. Yeah,
lame.
That he pulled her out of that moment so that she could survive the fight, and then to be, go on her path later on down the road.
All right.
That's what I always figured, because like I said, in the original episode, you just see her walking away, which means I figured before we had the whole time tunnel thing that, some ground fell in between them and they're separated. So they just, I don't know. It felt like an odd thing. Plus, I think it was to a certain degree, it was just to give Ezra an emotional force moment to be like, oh, I can learn more about my parents, or I can continue down the path I am with my new family. And that was him saying goodbye to, like, oh, I'm giving up on this chance to find my parents so that I can help my new family. And that was that emotional turn within that episode of him deciding I have to go this way. And that's that. And then also, I'm pretty sure that the monument and everything that was involved was destroyed within the quakes and whatnot that happened.
Yeah, but the point of
episode.
the monument was that it was only one way to get in. There was like tons of other ways to get in, right? And so if this is a whole show about her using that nexus to try and get around places, we're going to be in trouble.
I don't think it is. I think it's just, I think it was, that the thing too is like, it was only accessible. Like, that's why Palpatine needed Ezra, is because Ezra was able to access it.
Oh.
And that's because Palpatine didn't have the wherewithal to do it himself.
Did they not learn anything from Stargate? What kind of gate system has one gate?
I mean, a fence gate, and your fence only has one access point to it.
A fence gate. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. Okay, so Cameron Monaghan is in a show, an announced show called Wake, where he plays another character named Cal.
Are you using IMDb as a reference point?
I am.
Have we not seen the folly of such things?
I absolutely have, and it's totally not going to be Cal Kestis. But if I keep saying it on a podcast, we're going to get Sam Witwer and Cal Kestis brought back somehow.
Okay. You're pulling for Cal. I'm pulling for Quinlan. We all have our dark horses we want to.
Kit needs a separate dark horse though, because we're all on board with bringing back the Star Killer.
Yeah, no,
we're all on board for that. So his dark horse is the Kit Fisto series that he's pulling.
Oh man,
exactly.
On.
Now that Rogue Squadron is, I just want to address this. I'm so happy that they're doing this movie, and that they got a great director to do this movie, because I was really worried for a long time, because nobody ever talked about Rogue Squadron. It seemed to have disappeared when they came out with the video
Alphabet
game Squadrons.
Squadron.
Yeah, they would always call it something else, even though Rogue Squadron would make sense. I was afraid that they were just gonna, for whatever reason, not ever talk about Rogue Squadron. Yeah, and I am so glad that this is going to be an actual in the movie theater movie with a great director bringing this to the big screen. I am so happy.
Yeah, I haven't seen yet whether or not they're going to bring back the novel situation here, or if they're going to try and do their own thing. I would really hope they go get like
they've
Aaron
said
Alston.
That it's not gonna. I think that they've said that they aren't. Well, okay. So Aaron, I believe Aaron Alston has passed away. I think that he passed away a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
Michael Stackpole, I
Yeah,
believe, is
Michael
still,
Stackpole would be great.
Yeah, I believe he's still alive. But Aaron Alston, I'm pretty sure, passed away.
I mean, if you grab Michael Stackpole and say write a Rogue Squadron movie that Patty Jenkins wants to direct, I'll watch it twice. I don't even care.
He already there's if you go to her Twitter feed, her Twitter page, I don't know, what do you call that, her Twitter, he's got he's already like congratulated her. That's on her Twitter thing,
so she knows who he is. That's good.
Yeah. But my understanding is that they've said, somebody official has said that this is not going to be, that they're going to redo it, that it's called Rogue Squadron. I'm sure that some of the characters will probably have the same names and stuff, but they're not going to just like take the books and just make them into a movie.
Do you think
it'll
they make
be kind of a new story?
Do you think they make the assumption that more people have played the games than read the books, and so they somehow, I don't know how you take influence from those games. They're really not story-driven games as much as they are arcade shooters.
Yeah, I mean, I would think as well, and that just gives them more fertile ground to go wherever they need to.
That's true. God,
Because there's not that,
involved. That would be cool.
On a side note, they do mention that there's 2 movies coming out, the Rogue Squadron. The other one is an untitled Taika Waititi movie.
Oh, that's
movie.
right. Yeah.
Oh, so it's not on the list.
Yes,
Taika's got a movie.
It's not on the
Taika's
list,
got a
yeah.
movie.
Taika's got a movie. Yeah.
Which explains why he hasn't directed any of The Mandalorian recently.
Yeah. So there's something there, but
he directed the best episode of The Mandalorian so far.
Well, and he's still working on Thor, right?
Yeah, the next Thor
Thor,
movie.
Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which just got Christian Bale.
Yeah, as the Godslayer. That's interesting. Like, okay, so voiceover, just VO for that?
No,
Like,
motion capture,
we'll see.
right? You can do motion capture.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he can do motion capture.
Wait,
No,
stuff's
did I
gotten
say
pretty good,
Godslayer
too.
or God Butcher?
God
It's
Butcher.
God Butcher.
It's the God Butcher, so he's not like huge.
He's like, if he's the one I'm thinking of, which I mean, there's
He's
so
got a
many damn
tail
things in my head.
And a
Yeah, well,
hood?
he's like this black amorphous.
No,
thing.
no. He looks like a lizard.
Okay, then I'm thinking of a different character because it's all good.
It's
So, anyways, carry on. I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, Gore the God Butcher, the one with the Leku. Leku. He's got like a tail.
Well, make sure they're long enough, otherwise the nerds.
Someone will be upset.
Starting up right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
well,
okay. I know who he is now. I'm seeing him.
I think that's enough for today. We all got. Well, no, we don't all. Yeah, we do. We all have some version of kiddos to go take care of. Some of us have cats and some of us have kids. It's all good. Thanks for hanging out with me. I have wanted.
So
to
wait, before we go, wait. So
Just kidding.
before we go, so we are. I don't know when this is getting posted. We are recording this before the final episode of season 2. What is that?
Friday.
8,
Yeah,
16,
8. Chapter 16.
Whatever.
18th.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Before that comes out, so we have to make our prediction who the Jedi is who will answer. I'm assuming. I think that we all assume that there's going to be a Jedi who answers the call.
Does it happen this season though? I don't know that they answer who it is by the end of this season. I think
Even if it doesn't, I think we should make our guesses. I'm guessing Yaddle.
Okay, I mean it's a good guess, right? Like they don't technically have to say that she's dead.
Right.
Technically, like I was doing this because I was talking about listening to another podcast. There's like, oh yeah, no, she died. Oh no, it's the Kevin Smith one, the one with Mark Bernardin.
Batman on Batman?
No, Fat Man Beyond. Fat Man Beyond, which is the evolution of Fat Man on Batman. They're still doing their shows online, and their sound engineer is a pretty big Star Wars guy. But he's like, oh yeah, she died off camera in a comic book, and he's still pulling from, as many Star Wars fans still do. He's pulling from Legends, and she never in canon. We never see her death. She just kind of disappears into the ether because she steps down from the council. And I believe still in canon is that Shakti takes her seat. And so we never find out her supposed. I mean, we just kind of take for granted that most of the Jedi die. So we don't know what those individual outcomes are. Just like we know, like technically speaking, most people don't know that Jocasta Nu, the Jedi librarian, lived past Order 66. And
She did?
so, yeah,
How'd she get out of the library?
She was actually initially off world at the time of Order 66.
Oh.
And when she returns because she wants to protect the archives, and that actually takes place in the second Darth Vader series, which is very good. Highly recommend it. But yeah, so like that's the type of stuff where it's like, oh, we don't see these people die, and so that hypothetically, like everyone's saying with Mace Windu, I think it's just the fanfare around Samuel L. Jackson, which I get, but I'm also like kind of like he's likely didn't like we never saw hide nor hair of him. No, like there's not even comic book like, oh, what if he lived? They don't even have that to play off of. At least there's other characters who have a better chance. More likelihood. He's in bed with Disney, so I can certainly see him take off an eye patch for Nick Fury, walk across the lot, and put a different one back on for Mace or something.
He puts it over the other side.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm Mace. This is the eye Mace lost. This is the eye that Nick Fury lost. Get
All
it
right.
together.
So Kit said Yaddle. You've talked a lot, but you haven't said who you think it is.
I haven't. And I'm
okay. Hold on. I got a thing that you can think about it for a second. Kit, you should play more of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order because Grease Dritus, aka Grease from Fallen Order, at one point asks Seer if they were rebuilding the Order, did they have anyone specific in mind? He had heard on Laturion of tales of a legendary green pointy-eared Jedi. Junda asked if he was speaking about Master Yoda, and Grease responded he was talking about someone named Yaddle. So according to Fallen Order, Yaddle is still alive.
Well, again, to keep this in context, he doesn't say when he spoke of that, when he had heard about them. It's in the game, but he didn't say like, oh, I saw them after the purge. He's just saying like, oh, I remember hearing about this person one time. He doesn't say when, and he didn't even see them. He just hears about them secondhand. So there is that. Trust me, I looked at the same Wikipedia article because I was very curious, trying to find out what the final story was for Yaddle. But he does mention Yaddle, but it doesn't. It mentions Yaddle, but it doesn't give you a time frame. So it could be referencing a time period before the purge. I'm just saying. I still think it's possible that Yaddle's the one that got the kid out. I could be Yaddle's kid for all we know. That's likely one of the better options out there. I mean, not that everyone has to be connected in the world, but we only know of two of this species prior to this, and do
vows of chastity mean nothing to you, Ken?
Yeah, Yaddle should not have had children.
I'm pulling from legends here as I always speak of, but Ki-Adi-Mundi was allowed to have kids because his race was so endangered. They had such a low birth rate that Ki-Adi-Mundi was allowed to sire children.
It's true. Yaddle could have gotten that special dispensation as well because it's not like we've seen a lot of whatever Yoda's species is.
Maybe there's a lot of rules the Jedi had that shouldn't have been made.
Maybe that's a reason everyone says
there's rules that the Jedi made that they should have followed.
Orthodoxy. We're back to the beginning of the podcast.
Right. Because if they had followed the rule and not trained Anakin, then he would not have been... Now, he would have still been a super powerful guy who already sort of was natural with the Force running around without any training, which I can argue could be more dangerous, but he certainly would not have been in a position to cut off Mace Windu's arm and stop him from stopping the Emperor.
One would think, right, if he had not been trained at all and he became a problem, that the Jedi could have taken him out at any point in time if they needed to, because he wouldn't have known what he was doing.
Potentially. Yeah, I'm not sure what they would have done because like they clearly like they mentioned that they always try and grab him when they're like, you know, like Ahsoka was a toddler when she got taken and whatnot. So they try to get him early, but they never say, and then they say to Anakin when he's like, I don't know, 8, that he's
you're too old.
Right. But what happens to them if you find somebody, because I can see that there would be a lot of danger inherent with that of him having those powers, not even an Anakin level Force user, but just somebody who had a lot of Force powers. Like I could see that being problematic, and what I'm curious as to what they would like. did they put you on a list and just kind of keep an eye on you? Like, do you have to go to a different school?
Get your force inhibitor chip.
Yeah. I mean, like, what happens to people who are force sensitive?
My guess would be that they forcibly cut them off from the force.
I mean, you're inferring quite a bit. That's like we've seen
I
other
literally
Jedis.
said my guess would be.
Fair enough. Like we've seen other Jedis who leave the Order for whatever reason, and at least 2 in canon we can think of Count Dooku, who decided to leave because personal reasons, and he took up a leadership role on his home planet. And there's a Jedi who felt that his training was more towards the physical battle, and he's like, no, that's not what we should be. I shouldn't be a battle master for the Jedi. I should be doing other things. He departs and this is in the new comics. So it's like, I think depending on their level, there's a whole lot of what ifs of what happens to Anakin. Like if he's not picked up by Qui-Gon Jinn, then does Emperor Palpatine, who hypothetically sired him, just go back and be like,
no, we don't have time for this today.
I'm just saying, does he go back and grab him and just be like, okay? Because if Mace doesn't see Anakin as a Jedi master, or Jedi, I shouldn't say Jedi master because he's not, but if he doesn't see him as a Jedi, if he's introduced him right away as like, oh, I don't know who you are, you're an X Factor, I need to stop you, does he then do a better job of do the rest of the Jedi when presented with this fully grown hypothetical Sith, just like Maul? Do they just go, nope, you're a bad guy, stop you? If they're not swayed by like, oh no, we've raised him to be a good guy.
Who's your pick?
I didn't give one because I don't. I guess if I had, man.
Okay, I'm going Cal Kestis for one reason, and it's because they wouldn't have to really explain who he is.
I mean,
if it's Yaddle, they have to explain it's not Yoda. If it's Ezra, they have to explain who Ezra is, for sure.
Same thing for Cal.
No, they don't. Why?
I don't think that they'd have to explain who Ezra is. They didn't explain who Ahsoka is. They could just have him be like, here's a Jedi Knight named Ezra Bridger. Yeah.
I don't think explanation, because just like, again, just the amount of explanation we got for Ahsoka, there's not necessarily any explanation you have to give anytime.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. I made that point before, that they did a good job of not having to drag you into Ahsoka's backstory at all. I just feel like if you've got Ahsoka and Thrawn and Ezra, and you just like start adding all this stuff from Rebels up,
it's the Ahsoka show.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that's where I think I feel like Ezra's over in the Ahsoka show.
Yeah.
So
unless they're gonna drag the baby over there, it can't be Ezra.
Yeah. Which I don't feel that coming. I feel like Grogu would stay on the Mandalorian.
So I do say Cal for real reasons, which is the only real game they have other than Battlefront out there right now for Star Wars is Fallen Order, and it was huge, and they're making another one. And so the idea of him still being around and explaining that he made it all the way through the war somehow could then lead them to say, oh, well, he did go out and help and find other Jedi during that time. And so I'm going to take this kid to my Jedi school, and then you can have the rest of the Mandalorian show to do whatever. And so people know, like, okay, well, the next couple games are Cal Kestis' story from how he gets from that to the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like the end of that is him saying, like, essentially, I mean, I can't talk about it too much without spoilers. But I mean, obviously we the way we're talking about it, he survives. And so I think that they would want to tell Cal's story in the next game, as opposed to just dropping him here and then we fill in the blanks. It's possible. I don't necessarily know if they'd want to take that storytelling device away from the game, the game storytellers.
The only spoiler we should not mention in that game is how it ends, because like that's one of the best endings I've ever seen to a video game.
Yeah, I think there's other stuff there too, but it's like but essentially it comes down to it. We don't want to touch on too much spoilers, but I don't think that the character that we see in that is the one who would answer that call necessarily.
Sure.
I think we might get I don't think we're gonna get anyone to actually train Grogu. I think that he's gonna go the Mandalorian path and choose. I mean, if we're aping off a lone wolf and cub, if he has to choose between the ball and the saber, he chooses the ball. Like, or he goes the path of the Mando and doesn't get trained formally, and maybe just we'll see it on the fly.
Yeah, that is possible. Given I was talking about the Last of Us's review by Tim Rogers, and one of those outcomes is they stick together for the sake of sticking together, which means that we have Grogu for the rest of the show ostensibly, and then Grogu has to start growing up, so we'll get a time jump.
Yeah, I've talked about a little bit too of like I call it tinfoil hat fan theories where like they're totally insane crazy. Is maybe we see Force Ghost Kanan, because Force Ghost Kanan, who was originally Caleb Doom, was in the Jedi Temple at the same time Grogu was. So do we get Force Ghost Freddie Prinze Jr. talking to Grogu, explaining like, I can see you through the Force, and this is what I have to impart to you. Or do we maybe even get that in the Ahsoka show? I don't think if there's anyone who shows up for him, maybe it's Ezra who shows up, but I don't think he trains him.
Force Ghost is a good. Okay, so your prediction is Force Ghost.
I'll go that way. Yeah, Force Ghost, or even, I mean, again, we've talked about it before about because I like the idea of Sebastian Stan playing Luke Skywalker, Force projection, Luke Skywalker, and some people have like taken apart the images that showed like, oh, it looks like someone might be standing up there while we get the shot down here. So does Luke Skywalker Force projection himself to the site to be like, look at that little baby, looks like a Yoda kid, and then fucks off somewhere? Pardon my language.
All right.
So yeah,
are you satisfied with our predictions, Kit? You're the champion of prediction here.
Sure.
Okay.
I was expecting Ken to say Kyle Katarn, but
Luke
Skywalker works.
Too EU. He can't be in it.
We get Cassian Andor is our Kyle Katarn now. That's who we've got.
They did bring back the Dark Troopers, so maybe.
Yeah, there's video games all through this show.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
That's Cal Kestis
is just offhand that they couldn't bring in another.
That's why I bring Cal Kestis in, is because they're totally willing to pull stuff from video games. So.
I mean, I think especially by name Kyle Katarn, we won't like again. The closest I think we get to is Andor, but that's the thing too, is like there's a split in the like original Kyle Katarn is just that ex-Imperial guy who steals the Death Star plans.
What if it's how many years past are we?
5 years past Return of the Jedi.
Are we only 5 years past Jedi?
Yeah, so there's only like 5 years between Boba Fett dropping in the Sarlacc pit and then getting his armor back.
Too young to be Ben Solo time.
Oh yeah, way too young to be.
Because that would be a cool. That would be
4 years old.
I mean, that would have been a cool twist. Like Ben Solo shows up and says, "Luke Skywalker sent me," but not.
He's like 5. Hi, I'm here to help.
I'm a Jedi.
I'm a Jedi. My dad flies. Whoosh. That's my Ben Solo impression, everyone.
It's accurate.
Welcome to Carbon Scoring Theater.
Carbon Scoring Theater is taking a break until after the next episode. Probably sometime over Christmas break, we'll get together again and talk about it. Until then, follow us on whatever thing you do, podcasts or YouTubes or whatever. Ken does other shows.
I do other shows. Look up at Comic Banter. You'll find stuff on YouTube and Twitch. And we'll probably be returning in 2021 with some more shows. It's just been a busy time period for us right now.
All right. If you have predictions for which Jedi, and if they're not ones that you could easily find online, like somebody that we don't know is still alive, or if you want to give us your fan fiction about how it's actually Kit Fisto with new legs, then email those to podcast@weweregamers.com. And until then, may the Force be with you.
Yeah.
What is he talking about?
Grilled cheese.
Oh my god.
What, do you not like grilled cheese sandwiches?
No, just the amount of detail you care about.
This has
I
been
like
Wolfgang
detail.
Puck talking about.
Have you not met Ken Rollo? I mean, good heavens, we talked about Star Wars. Like that's, I'm not like it's not just Star Wars that I'm that ridiculous about. It's many a thing.
I
I'm
think
a
I
geek
have
of all
two.
trades.
I have two grilled cheese opinions. One is I have an exact perfect sandwich with exact types of bread and cheese and all that type of stuff, and I don't make it most of the time, and therefore I don't care the rest of the time.
What are your standards? What's your build?
Japanese white bread, thick cut with
Oof.
what?
That's good. That sounds
Oh,
so
yeah.
good, but it's just not available that
Right,
readily.
exactly. So
out
I don't
here.
have any opinions about grilled cheese sandwiches because I can't make the perfect one that easily.
Yeah, Japanese white bread, I am down for. It's just a
Butter on
matter
the
of like,
butter
I
on the
gotta go out.
outside, mayonnaise on the inside, Swiss and cheddar.
Okay, see, two. That's one thing I was saying. Two flavors of cheese. You want a mellow, and you want that nice, strong flavor from the cheddar.
Munster's a good replacement too for cheddar if you can get it.
Yeah.
And then 3 to 4 pieces, depending on how thick you want it, of sliced cheese. And then you're done. That's it. That's the whole sandwich. Don't mess with it beyond
No
that.
sliced meats. No
Nope.
prosciutto.
Then it's a melt. It's
no
not
ham?
It's a melt
Okay.
if you put meat in it.
Okay. How about grilled onions?
No. Stop.
No.
I hate onions, so I would never do that.
I hate them as well, but some people like them, like on a
yeah.
croque monsieur.
Sure.
You might have
Absolutely.
that?
Mm-hmm. I love grilled onions. Don't call it a grilled cheese. Hi. Hi.
This has been sandwich. Oh god, we need a better gabbing with grilled cheese, and we now return you to your regularly scheduled podcast of Carbon Scoring, a sub pod of We Were Gamers. Nice shirt. I should go grab my. I have the exact same one from Target.
Thanks. I made a mess of this. Who has the list? I'm a disaster today.
What list? I can pull it up. Just the episode list?
No, the stuff they're bringing.
Oh.
Of all the new shows they added.
Oh, the new shows. I thought my brain was still on. Yeah, I can pull that up.
I found a Steam link in my desk just now.
Nice.
Is that the thing that you can play Steam on your TV?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have one of those too.
But I just found. So I've been cleaning my office. You probably can't tell. And I got really absorbed in that and woodworking today, and I totally lost track of time. And I just found the box for this, and I thought it was in the box. So that's fun and exciting.
I enjoy a good bit of woodworking. It's one of those things where it's like I've fallen down like lots of different YouTube rabbit holes at times, and being like, oh man, I could do that. And it's like stuff that I know like skill wise I could do, but it's also a matter of
tools.
I don't have a giant garage and tools. I'm like, yeah, that's right. I'm never gonna do that. I'm never gonna make that gaming table instead of going to like oh yeah, cup holders, dice, lift up the top. Look at all this. I can make this. It's relatively simple. It's just having. I said
it's harder
relatively.
than you think.
It's harder than you think, but it's also more. It's like certain things are you need 2 people depending on the pieces of wood you're working with to try and get a good control over it. But it's also a matter of just having X amount of things. Like, oh, I've got to have 15 different like standing power tools, as well as like at least 5, actually, probably about 5 different standing power tools, and then all the different accoutrements as well.
Are you ready?
Do I sound okay? I'm on my iPad. My laptop died, so.
Yeah.
Died?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Hard drive died. So, and my new one is currently on its way here from China. So
Bummer.
it should be here this week.
I gotta say, like for being an iPad, that's actually pretty clean. Like the video's good. Yeah,
just move your mic up a little bit. Right about there. Let's see what.
Sound good?
Oh yeah, it sounds a lot better.